What's the difference between a traditional inspection and a thermal inspection?
All right, so basically the differences, say, with thermal versus visual or your traditional imagery, especially when we're talking about drones and UAVs. Pretty much the majority of drones see in visual or RGB, basically what we see in daily life. And then thermal records in heat differences. So it's not actually seeing the different colors that you may see in a thermal image. What it's seeing is in the very low end infrared spectrum, where we would see different values of heat radiating off of a surface. The benefit there is instead of just looking at physical damage like hail and wind, we can also look at penetrative damages like water penetration, leaks, insulation missing, and HVAC issues.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So why are thermal inspections becoming more popular in the roofing industry?
Well, as costs go up, a lot of people are looking at being more efficient with their money. And when you look at a visual inspection versus a thermal inspection versus the traditional needing to replace your roof on a certain yearly schedule, what you're able to do with a visual or thermal inspection is make sure that your roof is still good. And that can extend out your lifespan of a commercial roof, which gives you better ROI for that investment. On top of that, if you're looking at, say, thermal imaging and you're finding potential leaks and water intrusion, you can mitigate those damages in the local area versus having to replace an entire roof. So, as far as your cost mitigation, instead of having to have a hundreds of thousands of dollar replacement of a commercial roof, if you know exactly where to look and test for different issues, wind damage, moisture issues, XYZ, then you can be a lot more efficient with the dollars that you spend.
Yeah, I know efficiency is definitely a huge thing. Just going out there and being able to get more rapid assessments. So, like, can we talk about time? How much time does it take for these assessments to be done, or what does that process look like?
So traditionally, with thermal inspection, it would require a person on the roof with a thermal camera or FLIR camera looking at different spots and recording those temperatures as they go. And then also looking at different key locations as far as where the roof membranes meet, where they meet the edges of the roof, like the flashings, the HVACs, ventilations, all those different kind of penetrations to a roof and the surface. You want to make sure that there's no ability for water to penetrate. So in a traditional roof inspection, that may take a couple days depending on the size of the roof, whereas with a thermal drone inspection, we can do that in an hour. And
Yeah.
then we would also have a visual inspection during the day while we have the sun up. So we're looking at maybe 2 30-minute flights to maybe 2 hour long flights.
Yeah, that's something I know you and I went back and forth on a few times as far as like the time frame of the different inspections. So why is it important to have it done at night and not during the day?
So ideally with visual, you want to have a lot of light,
Hmm.
and the sun is key to being able to see what you're looking at. With thermal imaging, the sun is a key factor, but it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for, say, hot spots on a solar panel, you'd want that to be done during the day when there is the sun out. But if you're looking for moisture issues and things more pertinent to a commercial roof, we want to do that post sunset for a specific reason. Basically, your roofing membranes, all those materials are going to absorb the heat during the day from the sun. And then at night, they will dissipate that heat faster than, say, water penetrations and HVAC issues where it's still off gassing hot air. So basically, different thermal anomalies are a lot more visible at night for thermal roofing inspections, and it's
Yeah.
much more valuable to do it at night versus during the day.
No, it makes sense, and it's really cool because the way I try to describe to people is you have different like materials, different properties, different mediums, and so we're able to detect things because things heat up and cool off at different rates, and so that's really what we're looking for, right? It's the change, and so we have a very specific window, and when we can capture it as the heat is dissipating at different rates. So if it's too hot or it's too cold, basically too far in the evening, you're not going to get actual data. Just like if it's midsummer noon, you're not going to get good data either, unless you're looking for the solar stuff, with a whole different conversation. Really interesting though.
There is a reason for doing a thermal inspection in the wee hours of the morning, especially for industrial side where they're looking for basically losing of HVAC or thermal in the early mornings, and you want to see how is your thermal insulation, uh, the outer structure of your building doing. A lot of times that's going to be best done in the early morning before sunrise, because then you'll be able to see the heat versus everything else that's already cooled down. Time of day is very, very important. Weather is very important as well. For weather, a lot like we just talked about, the sun is a huge factor. We're looking at thermal loading and how quickly different materials absorb and dissipate the heat. If it's a cloudy day, if it's a rainy day, that's going to completely affect all of the results of those thermal images, as well as if there is fog in between the drone and the roofing surface. You're going to have some basically anomalies in between the drone and the roofing surface because of the moisture in the air. So humidity makes a bit difference, time of day makes a difference, and then also like flight parameters, how you actually fly the flight, how far off the roof you are, what direction you're looking, how fast you're moving. Those are all going to affect the quality of the thermal images that we're getting, and being able to say, okay, this is definitely a hot spot for a vent versus this is a potential water intrusion where we would recommend somebody going up on the roof and doing a core sample to confirm.